We're trapped in a world. Graceland has always been sacred ground for Elvis fans, a glittering time capsule of rhinestone jumpsuits, love letters and gospel echoes, but for nearly 50 years one door stayed shut, the attic sealed tight off limits, until now in 2025 archivists finally pried it open, expecting dust and nostalgia, but what they found sent chills through the room. Not just lost music or fan mail, but something hauntingly human. The real mystery, it's no longer about what was hidden but who. The day the music died, August 16, 1977, the day the world stopped dancing and started whispering. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was found collapsed on the bathroom floor of his Graceland sanctuary, the one place he believed he was safe from the world. Paramedics raced him to the hospital, but by the end of the day the unthinkable became fact. Elvis was gone, just 42 years old, just gone. The official cause, cardiac arrhythmia. His heart simply gave out, or so we were told, but from the moment that explanation hit the airwaves, something didn't sit right. Fans, doctors, even former insiders, it was like they all smelled smoke, but no one could find the fire. And then came the twist no one saw coming. Dr. Jerry Francisco, a man who never touched the body, stepped up to declare that drugs had played no role in Elvis's death, not a single one. The statement rang hollow. Investigators and pathologists bristled. Whispers turned to outrage when the toxicology report finally surfaced, and what it revealed was a pharmaceutical horror show. Elvis's blood was a cocktail of diluted cods, Percodan, demoral codeine, enough to drop a bull, let alone a man. Under relentless pressure and isolation, the levels were not just high, they were catastrophic. Fans were shaken. The world was stunned. Who let it get this far? Who was complicit? And more importantly, who was protecting the illusion? As the decades passed, the questions never truly faded. There were always rumors about what really happened, about what Elvis was hiding, and about what remained hidden just above his bedroom, locked away, untouched. That attic, because if drugs were only the beginning, what truth were they so desperate to keep sealed in the shadows? Do you believe Elvis's death was really just heart failure, or was there more to the story? Drop your theory in the comments, because this mystery refuses to stay buried. The doctor, the pills, and the secret. They called him Dr. Nick to Elvis Presley. He was more than just a physician, he was the lifeline, the man with a prescription pad. From 1975 to the day Elvis died, Dr. George Nicopulos signed off on over 8,000 doses of controlled substances, sedatives, painkillers, stimulants, everything from Dilaudid to Dexedrine. When the spotlight turned to him, he didn't flinch, he didn't deny a thing. Instead, he said he was saving Elvis. Dr. Nick claimed he was practicing a twisted kind of harm reduction. In his eyes, Elvis was already too far gone, an addict surrounded by enablers, so he stepped in, legally controlling the drugs, hoping to keep Elvis away from the streets and the even darker shadows. And somehow a jury bought it. He was acquitted, free to keep practicing for a while. But the whispers didn't stop. By 1980, more celebrities came forward: Jerry Lee Lewis, others. The Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners launched their own investigation, and finally in 1995 stripped Dr. Nick of his license for good, not just for Elvis, but for a dangerous, undeniable pattern. Then came the shocker. In 2020, author Sally Ahodel dropped a bombshell in Destined to Die Young. Her claim: Elvis wasn't killed by addiction at all. He was sick, truly sick. Genetic defects, chronic illness, a body in silent collapse. The drugs didn't destroy him, they masked his suffering. According to her, Elvis wasn't chasing a high, he was chasing a way to function, to live, to endure pain no one else could see. So if that's true, if this was never about weakness but about survival, what did the Presley family really know? And more importantly, what were they protecting in that attic above his bedroom for nearly 50 years? Was it evidence of his agony, a final medical record, or something even more intimate, something too personal to expose to the world? Until now, a royal farewell and a locked attic. The morning after Elvis Presley died, Memphis became a river of grief. Fans, nearly 100,000 strong, flooded Graceland's gates, desperate for one last look at the man who had electrified the world. Inside the mansion, Elvis lay in state, dressed in a crisp white suit and soft blue shirt, his face forever etched into memory. Then on August 18, 1977, the city stood still. 17 white Cadillacs rolled through the streets in a funeral procession unlike any other, an echo of royalty for the king of rock and roll. Everyone came: legends like James Brown, icons like Sammy Davis Jr., Caroline Kennedy, and of course his father Vernon, ex-wife Priscilla, and 9-year-old Lisa Marie. The ceremony was both grand and heartbreaking. Elvis was laid to rest beside his beloved mother Gladys, at Forest Hill Cemetery, but peace didn't last. Just 2 days later, the unthinkable happened. In a bizarre and disturbing twist, a group of men attempted to steal Elvis's coffin in what authorities later described as a clumsy ransom scheme. They failed, charged only with trespassing, but the psychological blow was devastating. Elvis wasn't even safe in death. Fearing another more serious attempt, Vernon Presley made a decision that would change Graceland forever. Elvis and his mother were quietly moved Earied in the meditation garden just steps from the mansion. The estate locked down. Security tightened. Doors that had once been wide open to the public were sealed, but one door, the attic, was not just closed, it was locked permanently, and that's where the mystery begins. Why the attic? It's nowhere near the grave sites. It holds no gold records, no rhinestone jumpsuits, so what could possibly be hidden up there? So personal, so fragile that it had to remain untouched for nearly 5 decades. What secret did the Presley family decide the world wasn't ready to see? Graken's final secret. It began like a fairy tale in 1957. A 22-year-old Elvis Presley, fresh off his first hits and already drowning in fame, bought a stately mansion just outside Memphis for $12,500. That's nearly $1 million in today's money. But Elvis didn't just buy a house, he inherited a legend. The estate already had a name, Graceland. He didn't change it, he claimed it. For the next 2 decades, Graceland became more than a home. It was Elvis's castle, his sanctuary, his wonderland. Horses roamed the fields, barns echoed with life, and yes, a mischievous chimpanzee named Scatter wore clothes and staged pranks that left guests howling or confused. Some days it was hard to tell who ruled the estate, Elvis or the monkey. Then in 1964, Elvis built something even more personal, a meditation garden, a quiet place of fountains, marble columns, and white roses. There, away from the noise, he'd sit alone, reflecting on fame, faith, and the crushing weight of being the king. That serene corner would eventually become his final resting place. But Graceland didn't just grow in grandeur, it grew in mystery. After Elvis's death in 1977, the entire second floor, his private quarters, including the bathroom where he died, was locked down permanently. When Graceland opened to the public in 1982, tourists flooded in, but no one, not even world leaders or U.S. presidents, were allowed upstairs. It was sacred, sealed, untouchable, yet above even that was something deeper hidden. The attic, no photos, no tours, not even whispers, just silence while fans speculated about what was behind Elvis's bedroom door. They forgot to look one level higher. Why? What made the attic so forbidden that the Presley family acted as if it didn't even exist? And now in 2025, after decades of secrecy, the lock finally clicks open. The attic is no longer just a room, it's a question, and we're finally about to hear the answer. Why do you think the Presley family never spoke about the attic? If you had to guard one secret for 50 years, what would it be? Tell us in the comments. Graceland nearly sold in 2024. Elvis Presley's legacy came to the brink of vanishing, not through neglect or fading fame, but through a legal ambush that nearly wiped Graceland off the map. A shadowy company no one had ever heard of, Nozen Investments and Private Lending LLC, suddenly announced it was putting the King's Castle up for auction. Their claim that Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter and the legal trustee of Graceland, had defaulted on a loan. The news hit like a lightning bolt. Memphis was shaken. Elvis fans were stunned. Graceland sold off like a repossessed condo. It felt impossible until it almost wasn't. Riley, acting with the fire of her bloodline, launched an emergency legal counterattack. In her lawsuit, she accused Nozen of fraud, forged documents, and attempting to exploit her family's name for profit. It wasn't just about money, this was a cultural assassination in slow motion. Then came the moment of truth. One day, just one day before the auction hammer was set to fall, a Tennessee judge stepped in. The sale was halted. The ruling was clear. Graken wasn't just property, it was sacred, it was American history, it was untouchable. But here's where it got strange. No one from Nozen appeared in court, not a single representative, not even Riley's legal team showed up. It was as if the entire drama evaporated the second it was exposed to daylight. The ruling stood, the mansion stayed in Presley hands, but something about it didn't feel right. It felt unfinished, and that left behind a chilling question. What if the court hadn't intervened? What if Graceland had fallen into private hands, stripped of its legacy and gutted for secrets? Would new owners have stormed the attic? Would they have unearthed something so personal, so explosive, that the Presley family had kept it hidden for nearly 50 years? The attic unsealed, no flashing lights, no press release, just the sound of a lock turning. Click. After 48 years of silence, in 2025, Graceland archivists quietly opened the one door that had remained untouched since Elvis Presley's death in 1977, the attic, no one spoke, they just stepped in, and what they saw inside stopped them cold. Dust layered like snow covered the room. The air was still thick with history. Boxes lined the walls, untouched for decades, an untouched shrine to a man the world thought it already knew. But this wasn't a storage room, this was a vault, a time capsule of secrets. There were handwritten lyrics on diner napkins and scraps of torn notebook paper, candid photos never released, Elvis laughing in the kitchen, scribbling alone in silence, eyes heavy with something unspoken, private letters, some romantic, others wrenching, stacked beside unopened fan mail, yellowed and sealed in innocence. Tucked in a far corner were childhood toys and relics from the days before the gold records and screaming crowds. But then came something stranger, a well-worn leather jacket, clearly loved and hidden for a reason. Inside, archivists found a note, where this when you need to disappear. It was haunting, a glimpse into the psyche of a man who may have been planning his own vanishing act. But that wasn't the end, because what came next wasn't just memorabilia, it wasn't museum-worthy, it was myth-shattering. What lay beneath those boxes threatened to upend everything we thought we knew about the king's final days. The real Elvis Presley, the man behind the fame, had been waiting in that attic all along, and now he was finally ready to be seen. If you could hold just one item found in that attic, what would it be? The letters, the jacket, the tapes? Drop your answer below. We want to know what moved you most. The lost tapes tucked in the corner of the attic beneath piles of forgotten letters and time-worn keepsakes was a small cardboard box. It wasn't flashy, just an ordinary container with one line scrolled across it in faded ink: practice sessions 1976. No one expected much, but the moment archivists opened it, the air in the room changed. Inside were realtorial tapes, untouched since they were recorded nearly 50 years ago. No one, not the family, not the estate, not the fans, knew they existed. What they held wasn't a polished album or rehearsed performance. These were raw Elvis, alone, searching. You could hear him work through gospel hymns, blues licks, and even experimental synth progressions, an eerie glimpse into a new sound, a new chapter he would never get to finish. But one tape broke. Then it was a solo recording of Unchained melody, no band, no backup, just Elvis, his voice trembling, splintered, aching, stripped of grandeur, stripped of everything but pain. It wasn't a performance, it was a goodbye, a man singing not to an audience but to himself, to God, to the end. That recording has never been heard publicly until now, and it was only the beginning. Other boxes revealed stacks of unopened fan mail, some from soldiers stationed overseas, others from teenagers and families grieving lost loved ones. One letter from 1976 stood out, a desperate plea from fans: cancel the tour, take care of yourself, we need you alive. But there's no sign he ever read it. It was sealed, buried in the attic, forgotten, just like the warning signs everyone missed. And for the first time, the world is beginning to understand. Elvis didn't just leave songs behind, he left a trail of unheard cries and unspoken truths quietly waiting in a box. The boy in the attic, amid the glittering jumpsuits and vintage microphones tucked deep inside Graceland's long sealed attic, were things that didn't belong in a museum. They belonged to him, not Elvis the legend, not the icon, just Elvis the boy. There it was, a threadbare teddy bear from his dirt road childhood in Tupelo, a Bible, its leather cracked and its pages marked with delicate bookmarks placed by his mother Gladys, smudged with time but full of love. His high school yearbook bursting with goofy doodles and messages from classmates who remembered a quiet kid with big dreams and a bigger heart. These weren't collectors' items, they were touchstones, moments Elvis kept not for the spotlight but for himself. Among them, a whisper from the attic's most frequent visitor, his daughter Lisa Marie, once said, "It's comforting, I can come here any time and rummage through the boxes." That one sentence shattered the silence. The attic wasn't just a locked space, it was a sanctuary, a sacred time capsule where Elvis wasn't a superstar, he was a son, a father, a man trying to hold on to what little was still his. And something strange happens when you see it all: the hips, the hits, the headlines, they fade. What remains is a fragile, painfully human story. The boy who prayed alone, the man who never stopped searching for peace. We thought we knew Elvis, but now, standing in the dust of what he chose to save, the myth collapses and something more beautiful takes its place. The question now is, can the world love this Elvis too? Seeing those childhood keepsakes, did it change how you see Elvis? Can the world love the man behind the myth? Share your thoughts, we're curious how you felt. Did Elvis ever leave you? Know it's funny, I can't really see you, just the first row. That was Elvis Presley on stage, but it might as well have been him speaking to the world. Half seen, half vanished, a man both everywhere and nowhere when he was pronounced dead on August 16, 1977. The world didn't just mourn, it doubted. The body was buried, the headlines printed, but something didn't sit right. The very next day, someone matching his description was spotted at Memphis International Airport using the name John Burroughs, an alias Elvis had allegedly used before. Then came the Kalamazoo Burger King sighting, then the tapes, then the books. One novel, Orion, told the story of a music legend faking his death to escape fame. It hit too close. Suddenly the King lives wasn't a joke, it was a movement. From the 1980s to TikTok in the 2020s, theories kept evolving. Secret recordings appeared, some eerily convincing, a voice that cracked in just the right way. Gospel music whispered in a way only he could. Impersonators were exposed, hoaxes fell apart, but the question never fully died. One viral theory insists Elvis is still alive today, preaching under the name Bob Joyce. The man denies it, the fans don't care, because for many, the idea that Elvis faked his death is less about delusion and more about hope, that he could escape, that he could finally breathe, that he chose to leave the building. But now, in 2025, the attic has been opened. What they found, his letters, his fears, his unfiltered voice on tape, has given fans something they've never had. Truth. For some it's closure, for others it's fuel, because if something that's sacred could be hidden for almost 50 years, what else might still be out there? Maybe Elvis did leave the building, or maybe he was never really gone. The man, the myth, the music. Elvis Presley wasn't just a musician, he was a cultural force of nature, the man who lit a fire on stage and never let it die, with more RIAA gold and platinum certifications than any other artist in history, and over 500 million records sold worldwide. He didn't just top the charts, he redefined them. He dominated music, conquered Hollywood, and forever changed fashion, fame, and fandom. In 2018, the United States honored him with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, an acknowledgement not just of his influence but of his immortality. And yet here we are in 2025, discovering that the real Elvis was far more complex than any headline ever revealed. In a quiet attic above Graceland, sealed for nearly 5 decades, we didn't find a rock god, we found a man, a worn teddy bear from Tupelo, a Bible kissed by his mother's hands, high school yearbooks with scribbled jokes, handwritten lyrics, and broken-hearted letters, and one haunting voice on a real tour tape singing Unchained melody like it was his final prayer. These weren't collector's items, these were fragments of a soul, the kind of truth fame never lets you show. Elvis wasn't just a legend, he was a son, a father, a man trying to hold on to the pieces of himself that the world kept tearing away. It began like a fairy tale in 1957, a 22-year-old Elvis Presley, fresh off his first hits and already drowning in fame, bought a stately mansion just outside Memphis for $12,500. That's nearly $1 million in today's money. But Elvis didn't just buy a house, he inherited a legend. The estate already had a name, Graceland. He didn't change it, he claimed it. For the next 2 decades, Graceland became more than a home. It was Elvis's castle, his sanctuary, his wonderland. Horses roamed the fields, barns echoed with life, and yes, a mischievous chimpanzee named Scatter wore clothes and staged pranks that left guests howling or confused. Some days it was hard to tell who ruled the estate, Elvis or the monkey. And now we want to hear from you. Which discovery in Elvis's attic shook you the most? What do you think was his greatest untold story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this glimpse into music's most haunted mansion gave you chills, like, subscribe, and don't miss what's waiting in the next chapter then.